Hello, I'm here now with my new channel called True Cynic and stuff. This isn't the best opening. Now, I want to address a couple things before I start. Um, so this isn't going to be like my old ADR channel. This is just going to be me, like, directly talking instead of trying too hard to be funny like I usually do. And, well, since my channel's called The True Cynic, I might as well start with a comic that I don't really like. And no, I'm not just going to review comics. Um, so I've seen Young Justice, and I like Superboy and that, and I'm like, okay, I want to see what he's like in the comics. And I found this at Barnes and Noble. I was like, okay, I'll pick this up. And people say in Young Justice, oh, Superboy, he's so annoying and he's so whiny. To be honest, I probably would have hated him more if it wasn't for Red Arrow, who would. I'm not even joking. In the show, where he quits the Justice League and like this and they make their own Teen Titans and get another Archer girl named Artemis to join the team. And Red Arrow, formerly known as Speedy, comes in. He's like, "What is this? Are you trying to replace me or something?" And they're like, "No, dude, you can join the team anytime you want. We don't care." And he's like, "No, I don't want to join the team. I'm gonna leave." It's like, why did you come in the first place? Maybe I'll talk about Young Justice another time. So I got this book, and I wasn't expecting it to be just like Young Justice because I don't know anything about the character Superboy. So this is a really bad book. Uh, all right, I'm not scripted, obviously, and I don't edit on this channel very much. So I guess I can start off by saying the art is incredibly awkward. It actually kind of looks like art you would find on. It's like a cross between professional art and fan art that you'd find on DeviantArt. Uh, in some pictures, everyone will look fine, but there's this one image when Superboy meets Supergirl for the first time. And by the way, I like how she went from a dress to a skirt to nothing. Um, he meets her for the first time, and she walks up to him to touch him, because she's like, "Oh, you look so sad." And when she's walking up to him, I have the book in my hand here. I'm trying to look at the picture and trying to find a better way to describe how it looks. Where am I going to find this picture? Well, while I'm looking for it, it looked like she was doing some awkward march, and everyone looked like dwarves. Okay, don't worry, I'm not just going to talk about the art. Now, my second issue with it is that there is so much of an overabundance of self-narration. In the beginning of every issue in this trade, and I hope he doesn't do this after this trade was released, is that every single time there's an opening to a trade, he narrates to himself for like all of the page, and in every situation you see him narrate to himself. Now, I don't have a problem with anyone narrating to themselves. It's fine, but I think you should just sometimes let the story speak, instead of just Superboy like, I'm thinking about this and here are my thoughts about it, instead of finding some other ways to express it other than just directly telling the audience what I think. Um, and what really annoys me is that I said the art is not that good, but there's some cover art in here drawn by the same guy who drew Superman Earth 1, and it just makes me wish he did the art for this book. And, okay, you want to hear a kind of a mindfuck about this book? Okay, so he's half Kryptonian and half human. So obviously his powers are telekinesis. Maybe I missed a line where they tried to explain how that makes any sense. I doubt it. Or if they did explain it, they must have very briefly brushed it off. And the entire the entire book has so many scenes that. Okay, yeah, I think I could just say that probably the worst scene in the entire book is because it has nothing to do with anything and it just goes on forever. There's a scene where the company that he works for, Superboy is supposed to work with Rose Wilson, Slade's daughter or Deathstroke's daughter, to stop this jailbreak, and they fight like these mutant sharks. And in the fight, the prison there's like an explosion, and Superboy falls into like this underground volcano, and when he breaks out, he ends up in like this place where like this teenage couple is having sex, and then having nothing to do with anything, this girl sees this guy come out of the ground, nearly killing them, and then she starts to hit on him in front of her boyfriend, and then he picks her up and takes her somewhere, and then out of nowhere he bumps into, I think it might be Starfire, and she's like, "Oh, you found me," and he's like, "Oh no, it was just a coincidence. I just happened to bump into you." It's just such a clusterfuck of wait, what? um, and then they fight in like this really awkward. It looks like we're looking at it through like a sniper scope or something. And I'm looking at it now. It looks like there's metal. It looks like the same metal that Xemnas' dragon's made out of in fucking Kingdom Hearts 2, and then they fight. And then he flies away, and then he. Now, I'll say this. There are these villains. They're like these twins, and they both have like their own powers, and they like screw up everyone's day. And then Superboy actually has kind of a decent fight with them. I'll say that, but there's just okay. What? This is why I should be scripted. Okay, so there's a lot of nothing happening, and when something does happen, it's either really convoluted, stupid, has nothing to do with anything, or is actually kind of badass. It's rarely badass. And Jesus, what else? What else is there to say about this? Oh, it had a decent cliffhanger where Wonder Girl from the Teen Titans comics wants a rematch. And this book kind of ties over to the Teen Titans reboot, which is actually okay, even though that book just sort of has tries to introduce new heroes that are they're supposed to be like new and hip and trendy, and they're all really bland. Worst of all is like this Mexican gay stereotype, but maybe I'll review that book too. So, he fights them, beats them all, and just flies away to think more, to do like another six issues of self narration, and then I think he bumps into Supergirl later, and probably ties into the Supergirl New 52 shit. And by the way, a quick rant about New 52. I don't have too much of a problem with it. One thing that really bugs me, and this book is not any better, is that they all have like this one part where like they're trying to go, hey, we know what the popular stuff is. Like in the Justice League New 52, there's like a scene where Aquaman shows up and he's like, I want to help fight, and then Green Lantern's what? Aquaman's real? I thought he was just a Conan O'Brien sketch. It's like, oh, we know what that is. We know what Conan O'Brien is. We're so hip and trendy. In this book, there's like this scene where, Superboy's going through some kind of simulation as a normal person, and he talks to his old man, his old dad, and his dad says, hey, do you want to play some Wii golf? And it's written out like that, where it's in big bold letters. It's like, oh, we know what Wii golf is. Check us out. We're so with the teenagers today. And we keep forgetting to draw backgrounds. That's another thing about this art. Sometimes they forget to draw backgrounds, or they're trying to do it, and they try to justify it by like, oh, it was an artistic decision because of blah, 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 an excuse that I didn't have to draw a background because I'm kind of lazy with it. So, you want to know what Superboy's weakness is in this book? Okay, people say Superman's weakness. People say Superman's overpowered, but he has two huge weaknesses. One is magic, and the other is kryptonite. Oh, and red sun radiation. But all three of those aren't, that easy to get. Superboy's weakness is attacking him when he's not aware of the threat. I He instantly goes from Superboy, the clone of the great Superman, to I could easily kill him with a fork. I'm sure he's trained into like noticing when people are sneaking up on him, but what the fuck kind of weakness is that? I can understand, if they're gonna change his powers to the point where it doesn't make any sense and gives him like telekinesis, then at least give him a decent weakness. Something that is convenient for the plot yet is hard to get. So I wouldn't recommend this book. Volume 2 I might get because it left off on a good cliffhanger, saying Wonder Girl said, she wants like a rematch. And I'm like, okay, this is good. I'm okay with the Teen Titans book, and this book made the Teen Titans book seem a lot better in comparison. I'm not saying the Teen Titans book was that bad, it was just not that worth mentioning. But no, I wouldn't recommend this book. Oh, and there's this really lame, nudge at the next few issues where he goes up to, like, what's kind of like his adoptive mom, one of the scientists that created him. She's this redhead, and, he goes up behind her while she's getting dressed, and he goes, I need to ask you a few questions about how you made me. Then she turns into, like, the Incredible Hulk, or She-Hulk, beats the shit out of him for like 2 pages, and it's because he startled her and he snuck up on her, and then he says to him, "You can't defeat the 13 of us," and he's like, "What? There are 13 more?" And he's like, "Oh shit, this just turned into an anime." It's like, "We have to defeat the 13 captains of Nugu Fugu." So I'm not a fan of this book. I wouldn't recommend it unless you are actually really a fan of the New 52 and you don't find any problems with it at all. And you can look past nothing happening in this book. Um, I'm gonna get. This is my first comic book review, so I'm probably gonna get a bunch of people going, "Dude, you didn't read the comic. You missed out on these parts, and these explain some of the shit, you idiot." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I hope I don't get that, and I was mostly accurate. All right, I'm done here. This is my first review. Comment, tell me what you think. It better be nice, because I'm sensitive and stuff.